When we talk about carbon reduction plan, there's loads of things that crop up time and time again, loads of questions. So I thought, to save some time, I'll just list down, the top 10, 12 questions that I get asked and give you some answers for them. So I'm gonna have to read the questions out, I'm afraid, from my book. Did I mention my book, Net Zero for Business, available from Amazon? Number one, what are the main benefits of achieving net zero? Do you know what? You've got 6 R's. You've got risk. If you do a net zero plan or a carbon reduction plan, you are going to lower the risk of either being fined by the government or the risk of losing contracts because you're not seen as a sustainable company. So R, risk. Second, revenue. You're likely to win more contracts because people like dealing with good companies, and if you can show that you're a good company, you're going to maybe percentage-wise win a few more percentage of contracts out there. Third is you can reduce your costs. Okay, so as you go through this kind of net zero planning process, you might think, actually, do you know what? We don't need to do that, or when you can cut down on that, reducing costs straight to the bottom line. It's a good one. Next, you've got reputation. If you've got a business out there that's doing well, doing things sustainably, is a good company, your reputation will grow, and that's both internally with staff and externally with stakeholders. Then you've got 2 related ones, which is recruitment. People like to work for good companies, so you might find it slightly easier to recruit, and that's especially true of Gen Zers. They really do care about the type of company they're working for. And the last one, the last of the 6 R's, which is retention. Same kind of linked to recruitment really, but people like working for good companies. And if you've got a sustainable business, you're likely to have a better retention rate, again, especially with Gen Zers. Question 2, how long does it take to create a carbon reduction plan? Well, do you know what? You can get up the net zero catapults very fast. It's sort of 1 to 2 hours, if that really. That's a rough and ready sort of plan to get you to where you need to be. It's a good starting point, really, I suppose, is a good way of putting it. And then you go into the actual doing the MARTOC process itself. The MARTOC system, how long is a bit of string, really, but most people will find it's about 2 to 3 days work, man days work. If you've got some software, that can be reduced significantly, maybe down to about half to 1 man day, if you got the data. And obviously, getting the data sometimes is a bit tricky. It doesn't take long, and the results are just fantastic. A great use of sort of getting a return for your investment in time. Will I get certified at the end of the process? Certification is optional. A few people offer it. We do quite a few certifications, and we sign it off and say, yes, this is compliant. Benefit of that is you've got someone else to look over your work, someone else to go through it and go, yeah, do you know what? You've covered all the bases. We think this is pretty good. So if you can get certified, I would recommend it, but it's not automatic. Yeah. Who certifies me? Well, as I say, we do, other people do. I got a quote from one of the large accounting companies recently for certification. It was off the chart. It was, well, I won't tell you who it is, but I'll tell you how much it was. It was £120,000 to look through and check, which I thought was ridiculous. Okay. Who am I to judge? Do I need to reduce my carbon emissions? Can I just buy carbon offsets? Short answer, no, you can't. Net zero is about 2 things. It's about reducing your carbon down to the absolute lowest it possibly can go so that your business is still functioning and operational and thriving, and then offsetting the rest, okay? You can't just do the offset without the reduction bit. I really don't like that. Some people do. How accurate are carbon footprints? Question 7. Well, the answer is they're always estimates. And in your first year, you'll find, the first carbon reduction plan you do, you'll find that, the plan has got some real holes in it that you've done your best, but you just don't have the data. Year 2, you tend to plug most of those holes, and by year 3, your plan's pretty good. But you'll be using carbon factors, and carbon factors are only an estimate. So they're always going to be an estimate. How accurate are they? It varies depending on the carbon factors that you use. But, we're aiming at sort of between 30 and 50% accurate, that sort of number, but it's a real sort of hand-wavy thing. If you use the carbon factors as we've said, that's what everybody does, and you'll be as accurate as anyone else. So, you might be good or bad, but you'll be absolutely where everybody is in this industry at the moment, which I suspect will just improve as time goes on. Question 8, can I use my net zero certificate with my customers? And 100% that's what it's about. Once you've gone through all this work and you've got a plan, go out and shout it from the rooftops. Say, hey, look, we are sustainable, we do care, And people love it. So a lot of customers these days are asking for it. So it's not just should I, it's a case of I think you probably will have to. Okay. Number 9, I work for a large business. Can I use my carbon reduction plan to meet my legal obligations? That depends. If you're large, you've got over 250 staff or over 500 million of turnover and 500 staff, or you're listed on a main market, or you're in one of the specialist industries that people are focusing on at the moment, then probably not. You'll have to do more than a net zero plan. People are talking about science-based targets, people are talking about actual walk-around business audits. So you go through each site of a business and actually do an energy reduction plan for that site. But a net zero plan is good for companies with less than 250 or less than 500 staff and 500 million. They're good for the next bit for companies in that zone, but you will probably have to do something else. You'll have to tack on a few extra things. And in my book, on page 53, I spell out all the different things that you might want to consider and what you have to do to meet the needs of the various pieces of legislation that exist out there, okay? Question 10, what happens if I've got multiple sites? Well, that's not unusual, especially for slightly larger companies. You should be aiming at doing a carbon reduction plan per site, okay? You can do one plan at the top, which is kind of got all of the sort of figures rolled up and consolidated into, sort of a board level report. But to get the most value out of any carbon reduction process, you should be heading for one carbon reduction plan per site. Okay, it works really well. Question 11, and there's only 12, so second to last question. Can I ignore some sites when calculating my carbon footprint? Yes, you can. Okay, basically, if you're a one-person Regus office and you rent a desk by the day, or you're in a WeWork, etc., the carbon that the site emits, that's the responsibility of WeWork, that's the responsibility of Regus. And you do not need to take that into consideration. Where that line of responsibility ends, where you set it, there's some sort of things that I set out on page 54 that sort of says, well, if you meet any of those, you probably do have to include it. But broadly speaking, do you specify the lights, control the lights? Do you specify the heating, control the heating? It's all to do with how much control you have over the operation of that site, okay? Should I use a tax year or a calendar year to work out my carbon footprint? The last question for us. Use the financial year. Okay, it's what everybody does. It would be odd not to, and then it ties up nicely with your accounts. Okay, so look, I hope that was useful. If it is, consider buying my book, Net Zero for Business. It's available on Amazon. And if you want to give it a 5-star review or a 7-star review or a 200-star review, then I'll love you forever and a day. That would be great. It's great feedback for me. So there you go. I hope that's useful, and I'll see you next time.